Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back into the room. We've just all come back from our breakaway sessions. We are here today at YMCA in Orlando. And we are definitely discussing the topic that's quite riveting, and we've got at least 80 of our youth practitioners in the room. We're going to have a robust discussion as we reflect on the discussions that have ensued in the last 2 or 3 hours of this morning. Allow me, please, the privilege to kickstart this My National Day dialogue conversation by introducing formally and properly the panelists that we've got with us today. There is always a rose among thorns. And so it is befitting for me to kickstart off this conversation by introducing Ms. Mahadi Ramotsamai, who's a social cohesion advocate working in the GBVF stream for the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. She has a very, very, very impressive CV. In fact, she's a coordinator of Moral Regeneration Movement. She's a member of Youth Parliament and Women Parliament, and a member of Young Religion Leaders, peer educator at Africa Unite. Welcome and thank you for being with us for the better part of today.
Thank you so much. Also welcome to be here. It's been a pleasant and privilege to be here and meeting these young people as part of the young people as I am today. So I would like to say thank you so much for invitation.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Indeed, it is befitting. It is befitting. And I need to have mentioned that we are, of course, having you represent the one side of the robust debate that's going to take place, and I'll unpack that as I discuss the topic. Then on my left, I've got Mr. Tebogo Machokane, the owner of online radio station Blomanati, which turned a year on Sunday, and of course runs a movement called My Gents Let's Talk, which is really a platform for men to open up and share their pain without being judged, which he has been doing since 2017. Absolutely love the fact that what he then says is that most importantly, I am a father who's passionate about the well-being of boys and the youth, a mindset and a behavioral change coach. Welcome, Mr. Machukan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. You know what, after the discussions that we had in that room, I can't wait.
Yeah,
Thank you very
absolutely,
much.
absolutely. And it's going to be a neat fight, between yourself and Ms. Ramotsamai there. Okay, and of course, it cannot be that we are in a room where we're discussing facts and history and our heritage as a country, that we then converse without having a technical expert. And that's why we've got Mr. Mxolisi Twala in our midst. And I'm also going to introduce him, founder and Real Soweto Experience and Cycle Tour Specialist at Travel Habits, a travel and tours company based in Soweto, very passionate about building brands and offering authentic, curated solutions. Mxolisi definitely believes in collaborations that are driven by sustainable development, not profitability, but sustainable development, which is far more worthy and equity of measurement. He's a lover of music and football, and of course, more importantly, is the fact that he also is known for providing his services as a tour guide at the Hector Peterson Museum, which is really the critical reason why we've got him here today as well, over and above his love for Soweto and his knowledge of Soweto. Welcome, Mr. Twala.
Thank you everyone for having me. And seeing as we're drawing parallels between the generation of 1976, so they said Amandla and then Tina City Tanko, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so that's the lines that we're talking about in terms of the culture and who we are as a person. But I'm going to enjoy having this topic with you guys.
Thank you, fantastic. Welcome. An applaud would be befitting for Mr. Twala as well. Fantastic. All right. Okay, so now we need to move and come into this discussion. And I think it is important to understand that the topic for today is a debate which really looks at the following, the parallels between the youth of 1976 and the youth of today. We have Ms. Mahadi having led a team that discussed that indeed there are parallels between the youth of 76 and the youth of today. And we've got Mr. Machokana, who has said absolutely not. There are no parallels between the youth of 1976 and the youth of today. Of course, we must put a disclaimer. The disclaimer is that both of these individuals are certainly passionate about what has happened in 76 and have become phenomenal brands in promoting the ethos of 1976. So what we've got is them representing the different debate sections. It doesn't mean that they necessarily endorse anything that's coming out. They had to be convincing. So that's really why we've got them here. So we'll allow them to represent their teams, but cognizant of the fact that they are here representing the teams and some of the nuances, which they may be reflecting, and not so much about the fact that they believe in them, but that they have to stand on a position of showcasing their conviction. Right. But before we get into that, I think let's all go back in time. I think it's so important to do so. Let's go back in time and remember this day. Today is a very cold day, Mxolisi. And in 1976, on the 16th of June, a Wednesday morning, was just as cold, if not worse off. I want you to take us back, each and every one of us, to that day.
Okay, so it was an unfortunate day, but for us, we are where we are today because of those sacrifices. So initially, the march started about 10 kilometers away from the site. So the students wanted to go meet at Orlando Stadium, which is about 1 kilometer where we're having this event. So we're in a very sacred space. So the students, as they were passing other secondary schools and high schools, they were collecting each other. But when they got to the corner of Vilakazi and Muyama Street, it is said that their number was at over 15,000 students. And then they were confronted by 300 policemen. One of them decided to fire tear gas trying to disperse the crowd. But the wind blew against the policemen, so the gas affecting them more, they panicked. Instead of seeing that as a sign for them to head back to the police station, so from the panic, they decided to send out their police dogs. That's when the students picked up stones, as they were not carrying any weapons. It was a peaceful protest. They killed one of those dogs, threw the dead dog in front of the policeman. And then one of the police officers said, "Officer down," meaning that the life of a dog had much more value than the life of a black child, regardless of it being official. So the first 5 shots that were shot directly at students, one of those bullets, they hit Hector Peterson on the neck. At the age of 12, going to turn 13 on August that year, he was not supposed to be there because the march was for only secondary and high school students. But he was not the first one to be shot and killed on the day. He was the youngest. The first victim was a 16-year-old boy by the name of Hastings Ndlovu. So he was shot by a police sniper at point-blank range because they said he was inciting by holding out the Amandla sign, going to join the other students at the corner of Vilakazi and Muyama Street. On the day of the uprising, we've got an estimated of 34 students who were shot and killed. The uprising continued 2 more days, 3 more days. The number had risen to over 338 students who lost their lives because the march spread from other parts of the country. And then in that 2-year period, it is said that more than 1,200 students were killed and over 12,000 fled the country.
Truly, truly sad. And I'm not quite sure how many of you in this room are aware of the number of facts that Mxolisi highlighted, because every single year when we commemorate this day, less and less of the facts are being articulated. And we dress up the occasion with a lot more of funness than we do in reflecting of the lives that were lost. The parents whose children died on that day, on this day, it's a truly sad day for them. Those parents that are still alive, or even the families. One thing that stands in awe for me is the story around the dog. Tebogo, I don't know about you, I didn't know that. We often hear of the people that died, but we don't understand what really led to that. That there was a concern over the death of a dog, which catapulted into the deaths That's quite disheartening.
Yes, because when one of the policemen were asked to comment during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they said that seeing the students being violent towards a dog, maybe that would be them. That's why on the world famous picture that was taken by Sam Zima, they assumed the young boy is carrying Hector Peterson, he should be part of the leaders. Why would he care? So automatically became one of the most wanted boys here in Soweto. So 6 days after the 16th of June, he fled the country, going into exile to Botswana. From there on, he got a scholarship from the PAC. He went on to go study in Nigeria. Then 2 years later, in 1978, he wrote a letter to inform his mother that he's still alive and he's studying, but unfortunately, he was last seen or heard of in Nigeria in 1978. That's why we say his name is or was Mbuyisa Makubu, because when his mother was asked to comment in 2002 regarding his disappearance, she said, is or was my son, but he's not a hero. In my culture, Hector is not terrorism. It was his job as a brother to try and save his life. If he jumped over him and left him on the ground, he wouldn't be able to live around here. It comes back to the philosophy of Ubuntu.
Yeah. Now, whilst we've got you there, because we then need to move it and reflect on the youth of today, you spoke a lot about what then happened, the 15,000 students who marched, and I think for us, we defined a pillar or a topic around the power of collaboration and unity, right? So what efforts of collaboration and unity were showcased by the youth of 76? What would you say, Nkolisi?
I think from what I've been told or some of the people who were there, so the first school in Soweto to say to hell with Afrikaans was Pefeni Senior Secondary. So that happened on the 18th of May, the previous month. So those group of students decided to actually demand that an instructor or the one who was in charge of the education to come, because they were not going to be writing their mid-year exams because they were set up to fail anyway. So remember, Afrikaans as a language, it was established around 1870, but it became an official language in 1925. And to make it worse, teachers didn't get any training whatsoever to teach in the language. So after the students writing their exams at the end of 1975, over 90% of them, they failed dismally across the country. That's when their big brothers and sisters decided to unite and have a meeting on the 13th of June, but they had 2 representatives from each school here in Soweto. That's how they ended up deciding that instead of writing an exam on the 16th in Afrikaans, they would rather march together to the Orlando police station, but their meeting point was supposed to be Orlando Stadium. Unfortunately, they never even got to reach their destination or even fulfill their mandate.
Wow. What is poignant about that, though, is the fact that they had all come together as schools within the area of Soweto to augment their intention to meet on a date that they knew they were meant to be going back to write exams, right? Now, I want to pause there and come back to our debate for this afternoon. Ms. Mahari, I'm going to start with you. The youth of today, according to you, do they reflect this collaboration and are they unified? What did your breakaway session have to say with respect to that?
Thank you so much. It has been a great group indeed.
Yes.
And our name as a group, we decided to say we are the Game Changers group.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
before I could get into it, I just want to say this. This year, we all know that it marks as the 64 years anniversary of June 16, the uprising that tragically ended with the hundreds of young people killed by the government when the protest against the imposing Afrikaans as a medium instruction. Today, numbers of progressive and successful programs have been implemented, although there are other challenges that we have to be addressed by the current government. In the debate and with the group discussion that I had, there is a serious and a really serious parallel between the youth of the 1976 and the youth of today. And there is those key ones that I will talk about the background. It's different and it is parallel. The background, the education, the communication, it is parallel. And mostly what we extinguished out of that is back then, the loyalty was there and unity as well was there. And today, the loyalty, unity, also the love and humbleness, the humanity is no longer there. But in order for it to be there, both, they still complement each other. Thank you.
Okay, okay. I'm not quite sure whether you heard yourself, but you've just got a point again. You've just got you've just scored a point for Tebo. Because you are not telling us, Jorge. Here is the statement. The statement is, on collaboration and unity,
Yes.
are there parallels between the youth of 76 and the youth of today? Yours is to say, yes, there are, and show us in what way are there such parallels. So is there collaboration and unity with the youth
There
of today?
is, hence-
Okay, unpack it, please.
There is, hence we said it's a parallel. Remember,
Yeah.
what Deboho will be saying and what I'll be saying, it still complement each other. We're not fighting each other. So hence I said that we are in parallel. And to be honest, indeed, on that note, me and Deboho, we are parallel. So we're not gonna fight.
Okay, so let's understand this.
Yes.
From the group discussion in the breakaway room, do you see the youth of today being collaborative?
Yes,
Okay. Do you see them being united?
yes.
Okay. What gives a resounding yes to that? What can you give us as proof of evidence
Proof
from
of-
the discussions in the group?
Okay, the proof evidence is the morality fiber that they have.
Explain that.
The morality fiber is that once we communicated to each other, it was there that lack of information and lack of communications was not there. That's why we were not together as unity. But once that came into room, then we were.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, I'm going to pause you. Mr. Tebo, on collaboration and unity, according to you, you're saying the youth of today do not reflect this collaboration and unity.
Oh, yes, oh, yes. Oh, I'll say it again. They don't.
Okay, let's
And
unpack that.
I'll give an example, and I made two examples actually in the group. The first one is what we just heard about Bwteen. Bwteen was able to pick up Hector Peterson when Hector needed help.
Absolutely.
Picked him up, tried to save his life. If you go and look at what's happening today, if you can go on social media today and write help, and leave it there,
Power.
and see how many people will come back and really give you help. And the second thing that we said in the group was, if you can write help, this one is censored. If you're going to write help, but put a pair of boobs and say help, and see how many response you're going to get.
Objectification.
Yes. So if you're looking at the youth of today, the youth of today is not as united as before. The guys in 1976 were able to organize themselves without cell phones. They were able to organize themselves without any form of communication. The only thing that they did on that day was to meet and plan, and they met. So the power of unity was shown. They said, we're not writing. So the fact that everybody said we're not writing, they stood in solidarity. The youth of today, an example, the 21st of March, or 21st of June, Soweto said we're shutting Soweto down. Soweto was never shut down because there's no unity within the youth of today. And Refilio went on, he's sitting there, the young man, saying there is no unity in the youth of today. There's a lot of individuality. He said there's a lot of individuality, it's all about me.
Would you like us to allow
Yes,
him
I
to
want
speak?
us to go to Refilio there with the orange hat.
Can we
Can't
get the
hide,
mic?
Refilio.
To Refilwe?
There's the mic, Refilio.
Pass the mic. Oh.
Good day, good day, good day. Good day, everyone. Good day. How are you? I'm fine. Is English, ne?
Speak Sesotho, Papa.
Yeah,
Ba se bua le
they were
Sesotho.
fighting
I'll
against him.
speak
Yeah.
Zulu, I'll speak Zulu. Yonke into manje sibheke ngokuthi mina ngenzani. Like, we are not focused on what can we do to contribute to the society, but we are focused on what the society brings to us. We are more focused on what we want instead of what we can do, what we are capable of. So everyone is focusing on their problems and whatsoever, and it's hard to identify the problem that the common problem that we all are facing as a youth, and that shows we have no unity.
Phew. Okay. Miss Mahadi. Miss Mahadi, we thought now we are very fair people. And before we move from this pillar of
Yes.
collaboration and unity, you want to seek help?
I can bring backup, you know. I
Bring
can bring
backup,
backup as well. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Taboko, you're not the only one.
Okay. Bring back up, ma'am.
As my backup, I will bring Mr. Mduduzi
Okay.
to back me up.
On proving that there is collaboration and unity amongst the
Yes,
youth. Okay.
there is
Mr. Mduduzi,
collaboration.
can we get a mic to Mr.
There's
Mduduzi?
Abudim Mduduzi.
Okay. Okay, do you wanna, let's listen to Mr. Mduduzi. Go on ahead, sir. Can we assist Mr.
Mic check.
Mduduzi? Okay, Kuluma Geputwa.
Oh, I didn't get the question. Please repeat the question.
No, Mr. Mduduzi, we are still on collaboration and unity. Your head of the breakaway group is saying, Guti, there is collaboration and unity with the youth of today. Can you explain that? What were the discussions in your room, in the breakaway room, with your group?
Oh, there is the collaboration between the youth of today, right?
We are asking you.
Oh, there is the collaboration between the group, the youth of today, due to they are well integrated, they have open-mindedness, and they do have respect to one another. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to move off that one. We're not keeping scores, but I mean, someone is keeping scores. And I think at this stage, I really want to ask Mr. Mkolisi, if you don't have a pen and a paper, can we get someone at the back there, actually pen and paper, because you're sorted.
I'm sorted.
My brother, please, can you do the score? We've just done collaboration and unity.
the score
I mean,
is-
I'm full of influence,
Yeah.
but now we are Bonel.
The score is 2-0, but I'm gonna try and score 2 goals for them, you know? Yes, I'm gonna try to score just 2. Because seeing as we are hosted by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, maybe we can take one element. Maybe we can say what the students were protecting was their art form, in terms of how they could express themselves. And then currently now, yes, this current generation has got their flaws, but they are able to build up an identity. Right now, we've got Amapiano, which is at least an identity that's representing what's happening today, compared to an era where the youth were only driven and focused on the politics of the day. So now, there's the art form that they are able to collaborate on, that they can focus on their identity, and it also helps towards building a united culture in small portions. Eventually, they're gonna get there.
Okay, noted. We know that you are offering a lifesaver moment there, so You move from being technical experts, and we appreciate that. Keep coming back, because it might be Tebogo that needs it next time. But keep the score, ne? And don't base it on your contributions. I think that's a very, very valid point indeed. There is so much that we're seeing of collaboration and unity. It might be in pocket sizes, but indeed we are seeing that there are those youths that are able to say, let's not make this about ourselves, let's make it about others. I loved what, I think it's Mduduzi, right? Who spoke, Refilo. Refilo highlighted that there's an inclination to be selfish, and that is true. There's also an inclination to speak to what you were saying, that when someone says help, in fact, even on social media, you have people saying, oh, this one is looking for attention. So remember that we are going to come out of here with outcomes of things that we need to start fixing of ourselves critically, on what we are doing erroneously, right? When someone says help, are we willing to help? When there's a request for a collaboration, are we stepping up and doing that? Because that's what was happening. Somebody must have been so frustrated about the medium Africans that when they started speaking, someone else heard them and related to them, and it became a growing conversation that got quite a number of other students throughout the country to say enough is enough. So we are working away from that one to say where we are going to fix, right? Right? Fine, fantastic. Let's move on to the next one then. The next one is planning and execution. Walk us through the planning that transpired there, particularly when we reflect on the venue that we are at today, because it was quite significant, and the area around the venue that we're at, YMCA in Orlando. There were certain activities that were happening a couple of days before June 16, where meetings were taking place, that some people don't know about this very fact of our history. Care to share with us, please?
Yes. So one of the examples would be that at some point it was illegal for us as black people to gather in a group of more than 5. So assumption would be that you are planning to terrorize the apartheid regime or whatever the case would be. So now you had some of the student leaders from the South African student movement. They had to meet at Orlando swimming pool. So they had to meet not wearing anything. They were wearing like tight swimming shorts. So it would be awkward. That's one of the comments that was said by one of the student leaders, that they had to discuss a serious issue wearing just swimming pants so that they can try and bypass what was happening. So on this street that we are at, Tumoki Street, so the reason that the students wanted to meet here, they wanted to avoid as best as they can a confrontation. That's why they wanted to meet as close as possible to the police station. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to that history. Now we come back to the conversation that we're having. Ms. Mahadi, over to you. Youth of today are great planners and executors of that which they plan. Walk us through that proof of evidence, ma'am.
Okay, one vision, one excellency. That's how we can say it. It's one vision, one excellency. Why I'm saying that is we all, which is the both youth, which is the 1976 and the youth of today, the vision is there. So we all have the vision of excellency. And in my support, I will also give it to Mr. MJ to support on that. So Tebogo, be aware of Mr. MJ.
Okay, Mr. MJ, unpack that one vision.
No, Mr. MJ, where is Mr. MJ? MJ, yes, there he is.
Okay, Mr. MJ. Is the youth of today great planners and executors?
To be quite honest, I could say,
Sorry, we can't hear you.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
Okay, I think the youth of today, we can still plan, we can still execute. Then the fortunate part and the fortunate part is that with the youth of today, there are a lot of challenges compared to the youth of 1976. What I mean by challenges is that today we've got challenges like unemployment, fitting into society, drugs, sense of belonging. But take for instance, Abu Tebogo said that the youth of 1976, they were able to plan the march of going to, basically go to Orlando police station. Unfortunately, they never got there. For example, we also planned a strike, the fees must fall strike.
Yeah.
The fees must fall strike. We were able to come together to make sure that the higher education heard our problems regarding fees must fall. And also, there's a lot of dynamics that we have to look into. You know, it's unfortunate that we find ourselves today, the youth of today, that bad publicity in the internet, it always sticks around. Back then, there was no such thing as social media. You know, the influencing wasn't there. But there, with social media right now, if one person does wrong, the youth, everybody says that, the youth of today. But why can't we look at the good things that the youth have done?
Which are? That's your plan.
Unfortunately, look at that lady for Fismas, the lady who apparently she stole money for NEFSIS. Whose mistakes is it? Is it the lady or is it the administration?
Yeah.
So I think the youth of today, we're doing good for ourselves, you know.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the parallels can never be compared because there was bloodshed. But here also, we stick to the point of we have to educate ourselves on a daily basis, make sure that whatever that we leave behind is a true reflection of where we're going. I think we set the boundaries with that.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, over to you, sir. The youth of today are not at all Ayoba when it comes to planning and execution. That is your statement.
Before we can continue, I'd like to say we did excuse him to give it to the other group because we felt that they needed more power. So we gave MJ to the other group.
But you are not the judge.
Now I want to tell if we go in ahead with this to say the youth of today compared to the youth of then. Somebody said planning, they're good in planning. The youth of today are good in planning. If I can ask anyone here to say how many goals do you set out every year, they will tell you, I've planned to lose weight, I've planned to up my marks, I've planned to do this. Wow. But in terms of executing those goals, execution with the youth of today, it's close to zero. Let's go back to what he said, fees must fall. They've been planning, they've been doing it. But at the end of the day, the execution to get the plan right never materialized. The youth of then had three things in mind. Why, what we're fighting for, and how we're going to do this. Why are we doing this? We are tired of Africans. The second thing, how are we going to make sure that our voices are heard? Remember that when they were doing this, it was not just to leave the class, but it was also to get their voices heard. Did the international world not hear their voices? Internationally, their voices were heard. And when they heard, they put pressure on the South African government, and the South African government changed the way they treated the young people. Fees must fall, planned, executed badly because the voices are not heard. The voices are not heard because of the last thing is how they're doing it. The youth of 76, if you look, how they did it, their aim was to do it peacefully. And when they were doing it peacefully, we live in point A to get to point B. And what we're doing along the route, we are taking everybody that support our goal. That's where we're going. With fees must fall, they'll always be divided. The have not will say we don't want fees must fall. The haves will say no to fees must fall. The have nots will say yes. So hence the execution of fees must fall is always a challenge when it comes to the youth of today executing the plan. The youth of then, they had a plan, they executed to the T, and their voices were heard.
Debogo, whilst the mic is sanitized in your direction, what makes you think that the fees must fall movement was not successful?
Two things. Some of the people that were fighting for fees must fall are people that can afford. People with bursaries that are limiting people that don't have the bursaries. So at the end of the day, when they're looking at the numbers says we need to get education, as the 76 generation said. The 76 generation said education to everyone. Even the Bill of Rights says every kid is allowed to get an education. With fees must fall, it fails because of, as he said, the powers that be in executing the plan, who gets. not to pay is the problem.
Okay, I'm going to pause you there. I'm going to pause you there because I'm not leaving this fees must fall. I'm not leaving this fees must fall. We must bring facts. Mr. Technical Expert, facts. Fees must fall. Was it a success or not?
In terms of
And
the
I'm going to play facilitator here, not really want to provide the depth. You, as the youth of today,
So when you look at the access to the quality of education, I think it's done a great deal. I think where the problem lies in terms of the administration. But with the effort to get the current generation to where it is today, I think they've also represented themselves in terms of where we are going in this peaceful transition of this democracy. So I can give fees must fall a 7 maybe. I think once the media and the social media and everything just went wild and criminal elements, but the initial plan was actually for a purpose that is serving a lot of people who were very much disadvantaged over the years. So the glitches of the administration with NSFAS and the people who are not supposed to be there in their positions, they are the ones who are actually also making the current generation not have an identity. That's why some of the things they lack, some of the things they actually do better.
I think it's worthy for a number of us in this room to go back and reflect on the success of Fees Must Fall. And I'm not going to allow myself to interject and tell you the truths because you need to find them. But Mr. Machokana, there's a question mark there. No, Mr. Machokani. I liked what you said when you said, the haves and the have-nots. I'd like to believe, though I was a baby in 1976, when the youth of 76 were marching, amongst those 15,000, there were probably those who were well, conversant in the medium of Afrikaans as a language. But it does not mean that they were not going to participate in the march because they can speak Afrikaans. Because your argument in saying that those that are speaking on behalf of Fees Must Fall can afford it, therefore there's no need to participate in it. My brother, I'm not quite sure whether I agree with you there. Please come
Yes,
through
I
then.
wanted to come on that one.
Yeah.
The reason why we're not straightforward when it comes to that, hence we all hesitate when it comes to the fees must fall. We're only seeing it in a projective manner that has been posed as the media has posed. Because if you were there physically, you knew what you were fighting for. And yet you felt it, you felt it, that this is my liberation that I want to do. But then when the media presents it, it presents it in a different way. Hence we always say, hence we are parallel with the youth of the 1976 to say, sometimes what you see is not what you get, or what you hear is not really what is happening. So on the fees must fall, we need to also inquire that knowledge as well to say, yes, we're saying fees must fall, but yet the purpose of it, was it the mandate of that to happen? Yet others, they truly needed that, to feel that I am doing something with my life. To others, it was a motivation of something that is bringing life to them. So if we're seeing it in one perspective, then it's something. But we also need to be open-minded around it. Hence, it will never be resolved yet on that one. Thank you.
All right, okay. Anyone in the room want to comment on the fees must fall, or can we move? Okay, come through. Nduduzine? Come on, Nduduz. MG.
Okay, I think again, it's quite important that we understand what is success.
Wow.
What is success? For other people, success is when, at that moment, it makes an impact, For us, it's about going back and say, at some point, there was this thing called fees must fall. It reminds us not to get comfortable, that education is something that we're supposed to fight for. It wasn't about who benefits. It was about fees must fall. For who? Didn't specify which student or which campus. It came together, each and every campus. It started from Wits, it went to Cape Town. It shows the dynamics of of the scale of people, whether you are rich or poor. If you find yourself in the University of Limpopo, everybody expects the University of Limpopo, not everybody in Limpopo has money. But the fortunate part that even people from University of Cape Town, they find themselves in the same struggle, not being able to pay for the fees. So it wasn't about making an impact now, it was making people aware that as students, we're struggling with fees. Whether the decision is going to be made today or tomorrow, but the fact that remains that people heard us.
Thank you. And we close it there. I think that's with a report. We move on to the next one. Thank you so much for that, MJ. And our next conversation, then we bring it back to you, sir, and look at patriotism and national pride. Very, very important aspects of driving a socially cohesive nation is seeing a nation coming together and being patriotic about the wellness of its country and really being able to just outspeak powerfully and strongly about what their country is about. Let's take a look at the march, right? What efforts did the youth of 76 showcase that indeed showed that they were really patriotic and had national pride?
I think what's also important about what led to the shooting was because of a song that was being sung. So today we sing Nkosi Sikelele as a part of our national anthem, but the version that they were singing it in Zulu and Sotho. So that was illegal. So I personally failed to understand how that can be offensive to anyone. So it comes back to that identity, it comes back to that pride. Because once the police were still addressing them in the language that majorities didn't understand, they stuck to their guns with pride. So this sign means power, it's non-racial, but it ended up representing how to move forward. So then when they had to flee the country, going into the different parts of the world and not changing their tune in terms of once they got that side, Bwteen Mashinini was able to get enough media attention to spread the message all over the world. So everyone who went to exile didn't forget where they were coming from. So being patriotic about South Africa, I think, was one of the reasons that they actually stood up against the apartheid regime. Because if you can remember, when it was initially put into power, like in 1948, so with those laws that were introduced, they didn't just come with paper legislation, they came with brutality. So you're either ending up killed or ending up in Robben Island. So the students, by making a pact that no one should tell their parents that they are going to be marching on the day, it means that they care so much about our place in our country. So I think that's one aspect or one of the key objectives that led them to actually do what they did.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for that, giving us that rich history of the My National Day aspect of Youth Day, 1976, June 16. Ma'am, we come back to you. Right, let's ask you, on patriotism and national pride, is the youth of today patriotic?
Yes, it is.
Unpack that.
Yes. Firstly, I would say we are a proudly South African youth. We are very proudly South African. We love our flag. We love the colors. And we love that our forefathers and fathers fought for this liberation that we are in and the freedom that we are in today. So, on it, I will also give to Medipuo to add on that one on my side.
Okay, Ms. Dipuo. Where is Ms. Dipuo? Ms. Dipuo? Please, can you give a mic to Ms. Dipuo?
Sanibonani nonke.
Yebo, sis.
Actually, I'm a little bit skeptic about our topic today. I'm sorry to be out of line.
Yes.
I'm from the Ms. Mohadi's team. We were discussing that, our team, we were discussing that we agree that there is a difference between the youth of 76 and now, Tina, we agree that there is a difference. So, the question being asked to us are things that we discussed, but then, Tina, we say there's a difference. So, Mohari's team, like, Bayabuzwalan, now we have to answer questions that we know, like, I think Ms. Mohari and
Mr. Tebogo.
no Baba Lapaya, they discussed the same topics. Angazi why? Because the answers that they're giving us are the ones that we should give. But then, and I think kwamele kube ne dialogue. Abanye fanele baphikise, abanye ba agree. Angithi, wasn't this? You want to add on to that?
Are you agreeing, ma'am? Are the youth of today patriotic or not? Can you answer that question for
They?
us? Are the youth of today patriotic or not? Can you answer that question?
Yes, they are.
Okay, unpack that.
Okay, can I just pass this to?
Can I just answer for you? Sorry for that, eh?
Okay,
I think when it comes to pride, as the youth of today, is that we are a youth that is very that has pride, and we take priority in everything that we do. For example, we reflect the youth of today on social media in most cases. The youth of today, by showing our culture, by dancing to it, by dancing to amapiano, the world could see that as South African, we take pride in being South African. For example, when we participate in sport, for example, the youth, some of the guys that won I don't know which year, is it? The South African rugby.
Yes.
A black person won that rugby for us. That showed that as the youth of today, we take pride in being South African. We fight for our flag. It's not only about the trophy itself, but it's showing that from every challenges, from being a South African person, a black child, from every challenges that you face, you can overcome in them and still win something to show the world that as South African, even if with our struggles, but we still show the world that we take pride in it and we are able to be successful. I think by doing that, it shows that we're making a mark in the world.
absolutely. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Now, let us go and reflect on the opposing view after that nice ad break. Let's look at the opposing view that then says the youth of today are not patriotic. Why would you say that, Mr. Machukani?
From what we spoke about, we said the youth of today is not patriotic. They might love the country, but there's a lot of stuff that they're not doing. If you look at the youth of then, to show patriotism, they supported one another from the elders. So the elders were there and the goal was clear to say this is what we are doing. And the mission was one. There's only one goal that every black person was working towards, was to get equal education and do away with racism. And they showed that by the unity that they showed as the youth of 76, to say we are going to hold each other's hands and go forward and fight for this country, a better country, and show braveness. Because at the end of the day, for them to show that this is the country that we're loving, this is the same youth that when we give them the flag of South Africa today, they hold it with pride. Compared to the youth of today, in the room that we're in, the minute we spoke the flag, others said, I'm not even proud to hold this flag. Because of patriotism has gone out as a country. We're not putting even South African first. If you're looking at what is happening in the media today, South Africans are not putting first. There's other people than South Africa. Even ourselves as South African, we don't pride ourselves to be proud South African. Because when I ask a question in the room, they said South Africa was united up until 2010. After that, South Africa was divided. The only time that we all united as a country was when Spiwe Shabalala scored that goal. When we won the Rugby World Cup, that's when we showed patriotism. But after that, in our homes, we are not supported. Parents are not even supporting kids to show patriotism in what we show. The national pride. If you ask any kid now to say, what's the national flower of South Africa? They don't even know the symbols. Somebody in the room said, the youth of today don't even know what's the Big Five.
So whilst we've got the mic sanitized in your direction, what then should we do to get the youth of today to be patriotic?
I think the first thing that we need to do is to indicate, show the youth of today to say what are South African pridal signs. From the flower of South Africa to the flag, what does the flag stand for? You've got all the different colors in the flag. Let's break it down and make the youth understand that what does the green in the flag represent? What's the blue in the flag represent? Do I put the flag left up, right up? Why must the flag be risen up if there's somebody that passes away? Why? Number one. The second thing is, what are our national prides? If you look at South Africa, 1996, the squad of 1976 is still the pride of South African football. The rugby team is still the pride of South African football. But what other things do we look beyond sports as a country? Mapiano is a good example. Internationally, South Africa is recognized with Mapiano. But are they monetizing what we're seeing as a country? What else can the youth of today stand up proudly without Mapiano, proudly without cell phones, proudly without data and say, I am proudly South African?
Okay, so if I might,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to reflect on that. I'm going to come back to. So we're taking notes. We're taking notes in what you are saying. I want to bring it back. I'm going to come back to you, technical expert. You spoke earlier on and said South Africans youth are proud of the flag, right? Can you give us ample proof of what you mean by that? What do you see out there that says that South African youth take pride in the flag?
We still a rainbow nation.
We still?
We still a rainbow nation. The colors still represent us as we're still living in South Africa with different race. We still one, we still unity. So hence I'm saying we're still a rainbow nation on that one.
Okay, all right. Noted. Come back, sir. Let's talk.
I just also wanted to highlight another aspect in terms of the youth that's not doing right or the youth that's doing wrong. Because that generation had their own challenges and they were very clear in terms of what they were going to do. I think one of the issues that this current generation has is they're in deep trouble, or I can say I'm also in deep trouble as this generation in terms of how things are structured, but we are not being clear in terms of what are we doing. We can have something like Amapiano being a world phenomenon, but in terms of what it's doing to redefine the other generations, yet like, for example, jazz music. Jazz music, when it spread all over the world, the likes of Abu Miriam Makeba, Prayuma Sigela, and the rest of them, they were able to plant roots that side to make sure that our music industry and our art form, currently South Africa has got one of the best jazz musicians in the world. So if those challenges could be sorted out back then, just need to be clear, this current generation, in terms of if there's 10 problems, we fix one, like fees must fall, and then we are clear, we are done. Cannot be talking about fees must fall today, and whilst moving on to another thing, and social media. So I think it needs to be clear in terms of our identity. I think that's
Who's
the problem.
going to make that clear?
We need to take a stand, and like, if we're not going to be led, we need to start to lead each other, like what they did. During those times, most of the political prisoners were not there. So the students looked amongst themselves. They decided that if there's going to be this one identity that we're going to be rallying about, we don't care who's in front, we are just going to be together to fulfill this certain mandate.
Thank you for that. Now I want to come back on what you were saying, that there is for example, the genre called Mapiano, and you're comparing to jazz, to say, when we are then talking about music, we must let music have an impact, right? That's what you're talking about. And then spread across the world. Would we not say that Mapiano has become a genre that's globally recognized?
But honestly, it's perpetuating a lifestyle that's not growing us, that's not building us as a generation. Because what you see there, you see something that's more or less a pastime. You don't see something that people live daily. You see a lifestyle that I cannot say I want to be part of it every day. It can be an entertainment, like it needs to be something that you cannot take it into school. For example, how to wear Gucci and how to drink Don Perignon, or go to conquer. So as a culture, I think it's moving away from what it's actually doing as an identity.
Can I also add on that one? Let everyone be given the benefit of the doubt. As much as we focusing on the genre of only music, there's art, there's books, there's this culture, there's painting, there's art. There's a lot of variety out there that youth does. And 70% it's pushing, even though they're not being recognized, but silently so, 70% it's doing the work. And then the 30%, yes, it's there trying, but the language barrier of each and every system that is changing. That's why we may think that they're not doing something, but they are doing something. Even in silos, they are being recognized. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Mr. Mkolis, as you keep coming in and contributing, I hope you're keeping scores, right?
Yeah, I know, like it's.
Okay, we get to the second last one, mental health. What experiences do you know of, Mr. Mkolisi, from the history that you've got on your fingertips, of which truly reflects the state of mind that some of those who were part and parcel of that march were going through? What do we know? Are there any stories to tell?
So, with the example of Mbuisa Makubu, so the last time there was anything regarding him was back in 2016. So they say he went into exile to Canada in 1988, but then he was arrested for immigration laws. So in Canada, when they arrest you for an immigration law, they are not like supposed to let you go. You can stay as long as you want. So he stayed about 11 years there in that prison. So in terms of him not identifying himself, they say it's not because of it's intentional, but it's because of some of the trauma that he went through. Because the sister even said in one of the comments that after Hector Peterson dying on his hand, he never became the same again. And then we can go outside now here in the township. Majority of the generation who were throwing stones, who were getting shot at, they're still walking our streets. They went into the elections in 1994. They were told about freedom and move on. There was nothing that was facilitated in terms of to make sure that everyone understand that, okay, we've got the freedom, and then what are we doing? So people had been holding on to freedom. Hence today, you've got things like shutdown, people not wanting to pay electricity. It's because there was a long time that they were being told about freedom, and when they think about it, when they think about their living conditions, looking at the current generation with the drug problem that we have, and some of them as parents, they feel that they didn't do good enough. So it differs according to different parts of Soweto especially, but when you get to other places, I think people are able to live on and move on because of not every day they see the fine line between very rich and very poor, or being able to be respected by your peers or by your community, depending on what you have or you want or you don't have.
Okay, so what we are getting out of that is that you're telling us what the impact of what happened in 76 has had on those who are still alive even today,
Yes.
in as far as their state of mind.
Yes.
Let's reflect then on the state of mind of the youth of today. Ms. Mahadi, what would you say about the state of mind of the youth of today? In what way is it similar to the state of mind of the youth of 76? And here we're talking mental health, issues of mental health, being able to, within the society, live cohesively because one's health is healthy, you know, in as far as the mental aspect of it. We're not even on physical, the mental aspect of it. What would you say?
To be honest, back then and now, we're still facing the same challenge. Because we're still human. We're not going to change being human. And the visionaries that we still had then and now, we still have. And then in terms of health as well, back then, even though it was not being said out loud in terms of health, if you have health issues. And then now the problem is it's being said out loud that you have depression. Back then it was there, but it was more sensitive. Hence, the parallel between is the sensitivity of it, and with the now there's no sensitivity, but the visionaries, it's still there, and the power of the mental health, it's still there, the massiveness and humanity of that under the mental health, it's still there, and it's not gonna change. It's still there. It's something that we're gonna live with it generations to next generations. Even those before us who came, they still had. Even us, we still have. Even us, even those who are gonna come before, after us, they still gonna have it. So I would say if one day it could be turned into a national disaster like a GBV, because it's like that. It needs to be taken care of, but the thing, how are we gonna take it care? And the thing, how are we gonna even say healthy? What is healthy again? It comes back to that, but yet I still stand saying we human back then and now it's still there. Thank you.
Okay. So you are saying that the same triggers and challenges that the youth of 76, as you was highlighting, affecting the state of mind is what we are still faced with today, though the triggers may be different. Right, let's come to you, Mr. Tebogo. What are you saying?
Somebody said, okay, she's busy there. There is an issue of acceptancy and reality. If we're looking at the youth of 76, yes, challenges were there. The one thing that they had in mind was how are we getting this done? And getting it done was psyching ourselves up. Remember that for a very long time, they've been living under different conditions. So they accepted those conditions to say, we've been accepting it, which is the generation before then was their parents. They accepted the situation. These one accepted and said, we are tired. That's the first thing. And then they fought that. And their mindset was, how are we getting out of the current situation? The one situation, besides if you take politics aside with the youth of 76, was if I'm born in a shack, I'm not going to die in a shack. That's one thing that they always said to themselves, to say, this education that we're fighting for is education that needs to better the life of others that are coming behind us. It is building a legacy. How are we building a legacy? That was a generation that said the mindset was to build a legacy, accepting things. And I will say the youth of 76 were a bit stronger than the youth of today mentally because of learning to accept the situation. The youth of today, you reject two things. Hence, when we're talking about the issue of mental health in South Africa, you're looking at when the numbers started rising. You're looking at when the numbers started rising in teenagers. Let's not even look at adults. Let's look at teenagers. Because teenagers now are not taught to accept the situation that they are faced with. If it's COVID, how many people are affected by COVID? With what happened with COVID, a lot of families couldn't put food on the table. And with that, it put more pressure on the young ones. And they even said, we should learn, the generation of today should learn to accept reality, because the generation of 76 and the generation before accepted reality but stood up and fought that. Their mindset stayed very positive. Yes, even today they'll say they are positive, but I still say that if you look at the youth of 76 and the youth of now, mentally, the youth of 76, it's more stronger. Hence, we are resilient to a lot of things. Resilient to pain, resilient to rejection, resilient to suffering because of how we were raised. The youth of today, rejection, somebody said they're living for today. They do everything because they want to live fast. It's fast living. So my mindset now, I want to do everything now because I don't know if tomorrow I'll be alive. So, Dala what you must. Yeah, they said the youth of today, they believe in that statement, Dala what you must. So the mindset is about today, not tomorrow. Compared to the youth of then, they were looking forward to the future. They were looking forward to freedom, as we're talking about, knowing that if we get in this education right, if we're fighting this system right, what we're going to get is democracy and freedom. And what the generation of now, what did they get? They got democracy, but not freedom. I'm going to leave it there.
Wow, I don't know how you're going to come back after that. Okay, before I hand over to you, Ms. Mahadi, you You know, there's also a statement going around which says the youth of today, whether we call them millennials, Generation Z, they often are the ones to say that they will no longer put up with pain the way we were accustomed to put up with pain. Surely that goes against your argument of saying that the youth of 76 were a lot stronger. Is it that they were a lot stronger or they had been taught to put up with pain? Which one is it?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. They were a lot stronger. Remember, that's a youth that was not influenced by social media. That's the youth that was not influenced what they were reading or seeing in media. Media was limited. So everything that they got was support from the family. So it gave them that mentality to say, I want to firm up and be stronger. The reason the youth of today find a bit of pressure and mentally weak is because of the pressure of society. Society says, if you're a girl, you can't wear pink. If you're a girl, if you're a boy, you can't wear this. They are classified. And if I don't pass the correct way, because I failed, I'm rejected. I will take it back to the generation of 76. This is the only generation that when you failed a subject or a standard, nobody looked at you as a failure. You were given the second opportunity to repeat that standard. You tried again. The generation of now, fail one grade, they will never go back to school because of how they're going to be classified by their peers. And that works a lot on their mindset to say, I can't handle failure, I can't handle rejection,
But
I can't
do we
do
then
this, I
define them
can't do
as
this,
weak?
I can't do this, and then they are seen as weak.
Here's my question. Do we then label them as weak? Because you've just gone and said, also the families of those who were the youth of 76 were a lot more supportive. If the state of mind of those who are youth of today is supposedly, as you call it, weak, and you are saying that it's because they don't have those family structures, should we not be going back to those family structures and begin to address the family structures to provide the support that is needed to the youth of today so that they can be strong?
Do you want me to go pro or anti? With this one, the family structure plays a huge role, and I think it's something that we touched on. I don't see the guy, Oiwane, that spoke about it. We did touch on how today families are not giving the youngsters the opportunity. In the outside world, they are seeing that go and do it. But there's a lot of voices that says, don't do it, you do it, you're gonna get hurt. Don't do it, you do it, you're gonna get hurt. And that's why a lot of them say, we are staying put, we are scared to do certain things because of the voices that are coming from the families that are supposed to support us. The youth of 76, they had the church that supported them. They had ministers that supported them. They had teachers that supported their cause. They had society that said, go out and do it. Because remember, the freedom that we were getting, it's not only freedom that was going to be given to a young child, but it's a freedom that was going to be given to a black child. When a black child was raised and anticipated and firmed up, it means that the generation that came after that, it's a generation that is able to stand strong.
Okay, I see a topic coming out of what you're saying, and I think the topic is, when we look at the mental health of our youth today, can we really say that they're not being given the family structures, the church structures, the teacher structures? Could we really say that? Could we really, really look at ourselves in the mirror and say that we are not providing the youth of today with those structures? And perhaps, I'm not expecting an answer, I'd just like you to pause on that. We are recording this session, and I think it's something that we need to come back to and reflect on that, particularly because mental health has become such a critical conversational piece with the increased number of suicides. We are rated as what? The highest country, if not one of the highest countries, particularly amongst men. Something is triggering the society. Let's not even forget GBVF and the manner within which we are very barbaric, even with our GBVF. Is it that we are barbaric now, or that there was barbarism even way back then?
Maybe I can add.
Okay.
On
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Mahadi. I know you. Can I give Ms. Mahadi, because she had raised it? Apologies, sir. Come through, ma'am.
Oh, you're making me boil. You're making me boil because I'm a living proof of that. There's a reason why I said what I said. I'm a living proof of that, of mental health. I'm a living proof. What my history or my past taught me, it didn't define me at the end of the day to become what I am today. Because if I chose to stay on that mental health issues that I had that time, I couldn't have become the person that I am today. So let's not be be detained to say our family structures, because if I were to share my side of the story of mental health, it took me the whole year, the whole full year to be in proper, to be where I am. It took me the whole year. So hence I'm saying when you were speaking about the family structures, and I'm checking where I'm seated, and I had that, and I went through it, and it was not easy. And talking about it, it even made me emotional, because it's not easy, mental health. It's not easy to just even come out from it. We can say, you're going to come out, or you're going to be okay. People can take you to psychologists, social workers, but it's there. It's something that is in you, that is you, like that lives you, that tells you. But then again, if you choose to come out from it, risen stronger or risen above it, because I chose to risen above it, but not being drawn down to it. And in supporting on that, I have living proof of mental health from my own group discussion that I had. I'll give it to Mduduzi, Ruth, and also MJ on that one, mental health. Thank you.
Okay, we've got hands up. Let's take the guy at the back.
Okay, good afternoon. I guess it's good day again. I would like to talk about the mental health. I'm also living proof of the mental health due to the drugs I used to take. I'm a recovering addict, by the way. The difference of the youth of the 76 and the youth of today's mental health is that the mental health of 1976 wasn't pressured by unemployment like today. Today there's a lot of unemployment. Today there's a lot of stigma due to HIV and AIDS statuses. Today there's a lot of stigma due to financial support. Today there's a lot of stigma due to family background. Where do you come from? Like Abantu, like urbanization, like people that are coming from the rural areas coming to the city to look for jobs. Hence there is unemployment, there is a huge rate of unemployment. So mental health issue is affecting the youth of today more than the youth of the 1976. Hence the 1976 issue, because 1976 youth had jobs compared to the youth of today. The 1976 youth didn't struggle on drug issues, drug awareness issues. The youth of 1976 didn't struggle on the single parents that are raising children. The youth of 76 had co-parenting backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? So thank you on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's give it to MJ. Did you wish to talk, ma'am? Okay, after MJ, we will give it to you.
I think it's quite important that we understand mental health.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing. And secondly, I always tell people that when you cut a tree without removing the roots, it's pointless. You know, when you look at mental health, especially for South African men, when we grow up, we are told, indoda ayikali. Indoda ayikali. Back then, if you're a man, or if you're a person, as a black person, if you are mentally unstable, they say that uloyiwe. You know, like lately, it's quite imperative that we understand from back then and now. You know, back then, people will never classify mental illness as what do you call this?
Alzheimer's.
Depression. Yes. We've got depression, we've got bipolar. Back then in 1976, people never had the chance to classify those mental issues. Right now, because of social media, because now people are aware about it, and once we see that a person has committed suicide, the stigma already is saying that men of South Africa are not handling mental depression proper. I think because the problem is that back then we never dealt with it. The tree was cut, but the roots were never removed. You know, from struggles, people were struggling, people were fighting apartheid. People suffered, people lost families when they never talked about it. That created dynamics where other families are not happy, where parents, things are not happening at home. Mothers and fathers, they're not talking about issues that they had back then. That goes where? To their children. Then now, are we saying that the youth of today is supposed to be blamed by dealing with mental issues? My point is that we as people back then from 1976, 1972, they never dealt with some of the issues. That is what is happening today. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to, okay, I am going to come back to the two of you. I want to pause on that because we've got people that are taking notes for us. And I think there's something powerful about what you're saying in that something. So what you are saying is that, if anything, it's almost like when they say something's hereditary. So this mental health burden is what, according to you, is hereditary as far as the fact that the hurts of the past have moved from generation to generation, and now with this generation, it's reached levels of proportion that it's almost the lid of the kettle or of the pot is simmering in, you know, and therefore saying no more, and it's just literally blowing up the pot. Is that what have I paraphrased the sentiment of what you're saying well enough?
For example, if you take a person who comes from, in most cases, those people come from families where, for example, a father was abusing the mother. So why can't we reflect that when it comes to mental health? We don't know the issues that come from home. You know, you find a mother who's dealing with, like for instance, the mother of Bwteen. Can you say that he has accepted that he never saw his son after so long? He was able to guide his other children with the loss that he had for all along. So I'm saying that the dynamics and the society, depression is not only the youth of today suffering from depression. It comes a long way. It is something that for me it's a social issue that we need to deal with from
a
the
roots.
grassroots.
Okay, I'm going to pause you all. I noted the two, but I wanted to come back to Mxolisi. Just give us your thought, and then I'm going to go to my sister who's wearing the blue polo neck. Mxolisi, you wanted to give
Yes, thank
comments?
you. So also one of the things I wanted to clear. So the generation of 1976 wasn't the first one to fight or act against the apartheid regime. It's just that when the system was introduced, it went on over years. So in 1953, by downgrading the education system, introducing ban to education because of the challenge that was the generation of the likes of Robert Sobukwe, Nelson Mandela, and other prominent struggle icons. Because back then, them being academics, they were actually pushing back on the policies of the day. So we can start from the mental issues by maybe even like quoting Steve Biko, because he once said, the most important weapon of the mind of the oppressor is the oppressed. So now you had a system, it was systematically driven, forced, brutalized into black people's lives. Hence, when it led to the early 70s, and then by then, the generation that acted was because of they were seeing the conditions of their parents. So now we can take this generation, our parents, because of, I think, the social class, the economic class, they are not even in the match. They are not even in the scheme or part of the team. So as you as an individual, you are living amongst your peers, of which some of them are well off. It comes back to that issue of, if you're talking about being healthy, are you talking about thinking what's going through you or what's around you and what you want to do about it? So with mental health, I think we need to start to think about things, you know, because you can react and then you trip and then you kill somebody, or they say, I like in mental health. But if you really, really think about things, take time to think and think and think, eventually there is a solution that's going to be there. But if you're going to keep things just here and then have this facade of just going out on weekends, and then on Monday you're at home, it's mental health. But on weekend, tilia kokoti piano. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Noted this. Nkolisi giving us solutions as we move forward. Ma'am, can you please come in? Ahe.
Of the fear of unknown. But ntho e leng hore they did not even experience or ha ba soka ba e bona at all ba e utlwa ba re. You know, sometimes ke ntho e ne ke bua ko groupong hore nna ke hodisitswe ke a single parent. Ka nako tsele tsa bo 1991 mo le mo Mansfield ha nkatha e ne e lwantsha le ANC. Some of us ne re le banyane, but we experienced that. And it's a choice that you make as a person hore na I don't want to live like this. Wang understand? We tukisa wena mentally, emotionally, and whatever way e leng hore wena we prepare. Ke ntho ene ke bua le ka mo groupong hore rona we were bullied. Now I was one of the people ba ileng hore bullying khale e le teng. Ka bo 90 something bullying in essence e le teng. Ene ra re feta re tswa ko Mansfield re khutlela ka mo hae. Because of mama na rekisa malana. People will tease us, re ngwana ko malaneng, ngwana wa ko Bwteen, you know, some those names, name calling, tsele tse snacks nyana tsele. But I chose myself, I chose nna. Ke le one ka dula fatshe because of lekos kolong akere ne ke puliwa. I chose myself ka iketsetsa molemo nna ka ipeya hantle hore bona aus o tlo dula fatshe o tlo itukisa mentally and otherwise. Ho reng ke se ka bana le depression. Kiske kataba ya skolong, kiske kataba hore ki iketsetse dintho. Even now, hona tje if ever ba re youth e etsa something, I ke mind nna if ever ke fellwa ke mosebetsi hosane. A ke re ke mentor ke sebetsa ka bana ba batho. If ba re mosebetsi wa fela hosane, a ke mind nna ho batla pleke mo rekiswa malana ke dule fatshe ke rekise because of I know hore me ole o nsile ka something. So ha re itukiseng rona as youth, re bona hore ho se ke nne wa to use youth ya today e botswa. You can do dintho tse ngata tse leng hore batho ba bang they can't even do. Batswadi ba rona ba shwele ba re sietse something. Ba ileng hore ba ntse bana le batswadi ra ba lebohisa.
I actually love how this conversation just flows from moving from the parallels of debates to finding solutions. Fantastic. Thank you. And I love the fact that we're moving away from here. Your people are taking over. Okay. But there was someone else this side before I move. We're done this side, ne? There was still someone at the back there. I'm going to come to this group. Please forgive me. Let's take the hand on that other side. Yeah. And then we're going to go to this group. Apologies.
Dumela.
Akhirra.
Okay, na ke bona o kare rena youth ya nou. Re bola ke pride. Re bola ke pride. Khale ke kula nke la re khale batho khale ba sa tlhoke mmereko. No o ka botsa motho youth ya nou wa botsa gore tsa mo rekisha kwa ka se rekisha. O ra wa yo monga ditso officing. Re bola ke pride ke ntobe ke nya go e bolela.
Yeah, that is true. Noted. Right, let's come to the brother wearing the red jacket or the red sweater. Are we only having one mic that's roving? Colleagues?
Sanibonani bafethu.
Yebo bhuti wami.
Ninjani?
Siphilile singezo ku.
Siyaphila. Mina nginenkinga ngiyouth yano. Iyouth yamanje mina for mina hayi kabi si weak because of I feel like nakdala ne iyouth yakdala I feel like be in depression because of they were forced ukuthi bafunde Africans like bafunde pure maths nge-Afrikaans. So you can imagine leo pain leo. And good difficult ukufunda pure maths nge-English. Imagine leo pure maths nge-Afrikaans. Depress writings leo. But bakwazile ukuthi bayilwise badutshulwa but baya. And baningi abantu abashonile iyouth eyashona because of lento le. But thina manje ezubhutashilo lapho ukuthi uyarecover via indaba zama drugs nani pick up to you ntanga. But manje mengambuza ukuthi manje besingathi manje ngiyamthatha manje namanye amajita la singene la e-Orlando si-clean up wonke umuntu la uthengisa ama-drugs angeke aye.
Why ngeke aye?
Because of uyazi ukuthi laba bantu laba abathengisa ama-drugs thola ukuthi unesibhamu uzosaba angeke aye.
Okay, but ukusaba kwakhe, does that make them weak? Ngoba
Yes, yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Because uwiki. Abantu abadala bebazongena emikhukhwini bashawe labantu laba abakhishwe kudala. Manje angeke obvious uzocabanga ngiyodutshulo angeke. Okuzoyantanga. Izoyi. Ngoba manje angeke. Bayingakhi laba ngathi bangaya no. Machance asiyeni bese ngathi yaya no la eOrlando siyacleana no. Asiphakamise nizadla ubani esingathi yaya no.
Okay.
Simbalwa abayi 2 or 3.
No.
Which is true.
Well put, my brother, well put. Can you give the mic to the guy behind you? Yes, absolutely.
Sanibonani, I'm back again. I'm not gonna dwell on the arguments and whatsoever. Ne? It's just a piece of advice. We all have a choice, and it starts in the mind. There are bad choices, there are good choices. Bad choices have bad consequences. Good choices have good consequences. So if you choose ukuthi wena uzobambelela kulento eyenzeka kuwe in the past, then hey, awuseflopini. Awuseflopini. You can't hold on to the past. The past is the past, and we are living the present for the future. So you mele uzicabange, self-introspection. Everything will be okay ekugcineni. You understand? Now we youth know bafuna ukubambelela, then they blame it depression for not waking up and looking for a job. Sis, sorry, but sis. Sorry, but sis.
Okay, I'm going to take, I think, literally the last 4. I've noted 1, 2, 3, 4, goodness. Okay, go
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Philadelphia, and I go by the name Empress Filling on Blominati Radio. Okay, talking about mental health, I would say that it was all started and engineered with the apartheid system. The apartheid system, I believe, was engineered and made to break down the head of the house being the man. So when you break the head of the house, the one that everybody looks up to in the household, and you break that man, you shame him in front of the world, the nation, like how they used to do back then in the apartheid days. They would look for slaves where literally our dads were measured their noses. They were measured their private parts right in public. So when you break the man, when you break the head, what happens to the rest of the body? It can't function. So that's where it starts. We were broken from our dads, then our home structures, then it boils down to the kids. Then now it's been taken from the past. Most of youth today believe that if our parents fought for us back then, why should we fight now? Because it should have been done already. And then there's also youth that believes that from what was done before, let's carry on. So it's all about self-introspection, like the young man said as well. It's all about self. It begins with yourself, never mind background of how you grew up, whether poor or rich, because you could have had a rich background, but you are like, you're not doing anything with your life today. And there's that one that grew up with nothing, studying in candlelight, but they've actually achieved so much more. So I would say that it all began apartheid days, And so much of the youth is taking it with them.
Okay.
That breaks them.
Thank you so much for that. Now, we've had reflections of comments around the youth saying that it all starts in the mind. There's been those that said you have a choice. If you're not telling us what has already been told, then you can continue to raise your hand. But if what we've discussed and the narrative that's been shared, I'd like to move it forward and really begin to close our session. I think this has been an incredibly amazing session, to say the least. I think we moved from talking in polarized environments to becoming blurred, to realizing quite a number of things. But before I wrap it up, I'm just going to ask in less than a minute to give us closing remarks. And I'm going to start first with you, Mr. Mxolisi. Closing remarks, reflections of today, the topic that we debated, the day that we are recognizing being June 16. 1 minute. What would you say, sir?
So for me, firstly, I'd like to remind each and every young person that to believe in their magic. So with magic, it means you've got power, and then we've got power, we can make any opportunity be a reality. So regardless of what you are facing now and we're going to face, because I guarantee you, we're still got a rough years coming ahead of us. So we just need to believe in our magic and harness the power that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Then we move on to Ms. Mahadi.
On my side, I will say, let's rise the morality fiber of humanity. Because without the morality fiber, those ethics, those morals, those values, we are nothing. But if we do have them, then we're able to risen above, despite the old, the new, the upcoming as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Mr. Tebogo?
I'll go back to say one mindset changed is one life saved. It all starts with you, it ends with you. So it's up to you how you want it. So how you want it, you definitely know how you're going to get it. So sitting back and saying somebody's going to do it for me, it won't happen. To the youngsters that are here, and to you, thank you very much, to Elsie, to the youngsters that are here, it's all about you. It's not about your parents, it's not about your friends, but it's about you. Take your future into your hands. The possibilities are endless. Thank you.
Thank you. And so let's reflect on where we come from. So today we met to discuss and debate the different nuances and the similarities and the differences that are found between the youth of 76 vis-a-vis the youth of today. We were able to recognize that there are quite a number of similarities. We are still as resilient as they were, and we are determined to want to fight for a better life. We are also triggered by a number of things, and whether we want to recognize them or not, whether we want to debate them as a reason enough for us to not being progressive where we should be, is something that we will walk away from this conversation today and go home and review whether what we are sitting with, whether it be absence of family structures, whether it be absence of employment, whether it be absence of a support that helps you to not find yourself being mentally unhealthy or not, we are then sitting with those things and saying, we need to reflect and revise and review who we are individually and also as a collective. We've recognized that we need to continue to show the collaborativeness of the youth of 76, because in that collaborativeness, they were able to empower each other and also empower those that came after them. Can we be able to do that? Can we stop closing doors on each other? Can we open doors for one another? Can we empower each other? And on that note, I'm going to end off the session. And this was brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. Thank you.